Welcome back to the 3x5 Live
podcast.
That was terrible.
What? I feel like I gave lots of enthusiasm.
Nah, you're distracted. On this podcast, we talk about mindset, mindfulness, productivity, everything self-development. I hope everybody had a good July 4th week. We played a lot of tennis.
Sure did.
I broke my toe.
Yes, you did.
My back's hurt.
Oh, you're so old.
I know. I'm falling apart. Which is,
it's actually part of the topic we're going to talk about.
It is part of the topic we are going to get into today. But when I broke my toe, I did a little Jocko Willink good.
What?
Like everything that any obstacle in life, he says good to. Jocko Willink's a Navy SEAL.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, good. I don't have any ultra running races this year. Mm-hmm. So if it was going to happen one year, this is the year for me to break my toe.
Good outlook, babe.
Thank you. So this week we're going to talk about a little bit about identity. I was at a conference about a month ago, and we talked a little bit about identity there. It's been on my mind. I got asked to be on a podcast with this guy named Jason Drees. Jason Drees is a pretty well-known mindset coach. And I've probably been interviewed on about a dozen podcasts, but this one kind of got me. I was very nervous and didn't want to go on his podcast because he does like a live coaching, if you will, it's live between us, but then gets turned into a podcast. And I didn't know like what laundry I really wanted to air or what would be out there, or even what to talk about. What did I want to be coached on? And something that came to mind when I was actually flying to this kind of conference I went to in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, was that this thought of identity and on identity shift and being coached on that. And then ironically, the topic came up with one of the presenters out there, and I did some journaling on it. Prior to my discussion with Jason, I'm kind of creating, one of my goals this quarter is to really, I've been talking about for a while, to create this like master journal. I've been journaling since, 2018, 17, 16-ish. And I'm going through my old journals and I'm putting it into what I'm calling a master journal for like little quotes, little like reflections that I had at that stage of my life that maybe I will get bound and have like our kids read one day if they're so interested, which might be pretty boring for them to do.
No, I think it's a great part of your legacy and something that they totally will.
So
I like it.
Anyway, so Jason had me on his podcast to be interviewed, and I brought up the topic of identity, and he brought up some good points about me talking about identity shift with ultra running. And that was the big topic. Is I've had this career of ultra running. Ultra running has gotten me so far in my life, and what it's done for me is it's really broken the ceiling of what I think I'm capable of in this life. That's what it's allowed me to. That's been the biggest shift that ultra running has translated to other areas of my life, in business and family and starting 3x5 life. Ultra running is the reason, in my opinion, a lot of those things happen. But it gets to a point where that good can kind of turn into destructive behavior. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was kind of unpacking with Jason a little. And
I think you need to also talk about like how rooted in that identity you are. Like you were getting accolades and people were complimenting you and you were very successful at it. You weren't just running ultras, but you were placing in ultras, third place and second place and even first place in a couple of your races. And I felt like I could feel your confidence and sense of pride. And it became such an identity because when you get outward approval for something, it's something that we crave more and more of. So I saw that as also something that was happening with this identity as an ultra runner. But back to the destructive behavior. No, I'm just kidding.
But I think it gets to a point in your life where maybe that flame dims a little, but people recognize you and they ask you what you're training for. So you want to just kind of keep pouring into that because it's what you're known for. But the point is, do you need to blow up your identity sometimes? Do you need to question your identity? Do you need to really pull the layers back of what forms your identity? And that's what I've been doing over the last 2 months as I've been shifting. I took this year off from ultra running. I canceled all my races because I've been having these chronic back issues. So I really wanted to focus on strength training with the full intention of next year getting back into racing. And now I'm starting to really second guess that and see if there's another mountain I can climb.
But when you said, like, I want to circle back, like when you said entering into destructive behavior, did you mean, like, I think about like how many people say, like, what are you running from? Like, did you feel like that distracted you from work? Did you feel like it distracted you from, like, what was destructive about you pouring so much of your energy and self into this one pillar?
So it was definitely a huge distraction from work. I didn't want to cannibalize family life. So I would run a lot of times on Fridays. Luckily, I own my own business, so I have the flexibility to do these things. I'd run really early. I'd run at lunch, but that lunch might be a 2-hour, maybe 3-hour lunch of me running. So it was really taking away, it was distracting me from doing the work in my business. And now that I've achieved this success, I had this realization. It's just like, okay, you've achieved this success in ultra running. What is the next challenge that you can really challenge yourself on? And for me, I've been playing really small in my business. And I think that I'm complacent in my business. And I think there's opportunity for growth and just rebirth within my business that I can create if I give myself the time and focus to do it.
I mean, it brings up a great point of like, what are you spending your time on too? I mean, we've talked about this in my self-care classes. Like we all want to create this like balance in our life, and we have this like self-care wheel of all these different pillars. And when you are putting your focus on one and this type of intent focus, those other pieces of the pillar naturally shift.
Oh, they have to.
And so I think like this conversation for you is really important because you are a 100% type of person. Like when you're focused on something, you give it 100%. There's like no wiggle room. And so I think this has been a really hard time for you. Not ultra running has created this space, but I think up until this conversation, you were having a hard time figuring out what is the replacement for that same feeling or motivation.
Yes.
And so I think that this conversation, I remember you coming home from this podcast, really gave you some things to chew on.
And the craziest thing is, just within the last couple of weeks, as I've been chewing on this, I've had really impactful realizations within my business. The future structure of what I want to build out and the bigger organization, we're calling it the vivid vision of the business moving forward. There's been some potential acquisitions where we could acquire these small other agencies that have come up that now that I'm focusing on it, things are arising that maybe I would have ignored before because I was too distracted training all the time.
Yeah, I really think when you're focused on something, the universe provides these little like opportunities and quotes and things that you see and, you know, conversations that you get into, and this is where your attention is right now. So you've come home and said, this really crazy thing happened. And so I think the underlying message here is to do the work to recognize like what is your identity and if that identity is still serving you and whether or not a shift needs to take place in order to maybe put your focus and attention somewhere else that could serve you even a little bit better or even just differently in this season of your life.
Yeah. And the belief that it's okay to let go of an old identity, that's a good identity that people, you know, admire you for, and see what else you can achieve. Jesse's going to read a quote here in a second, but it's funny when a few days after having this journaling session about this, James Clear gives out a newsletter. It's phenomenal. It's 3, 2, 1, 3 quotes by him, 2 by somebody else, and then 1 question. And one of the quotes by somebody else was just spoke directly to me. So,
do you want me to read it?
Yeah.
It says, once you achieve high status, a part of your mind makes you lose interest in the thing that you achieved high status with in the first place. You might feel obligated to maintain an appearance of interest and defend your position from time to time, but you no longer feel a burning need to know the truth. One solution that might work, and I think has worked for me, although I didn't consciously choose it, is to periodically start over. Once you've achieved recognition in some area and no longer have as much interest in it as you used to, go into a different community focused on a different topic and start over from a low status, or at least not a very high status position.
Yeah.
That's that like learning mind.
Yes, growth, like the getting excited.
It's the journey of that growing opportunity. Yeah. It's really awesome. And learning something new and trying to digest as much information as you can. I mean, that speaks to my personality type of, if you do like the type assessments as a sage, where I just love to absorb as much knowledge as I can in order to be able to share it or like bring it outward. But that idea of starting anew, starting fresh, it's scary. The nerves are there. The lack of confidence is there. Mm-hmm. But that journey of achievement is the fun part.
Yeah. And I think what speaks to this really well is the recent documentary Arnold that I've been enjoying, is how many times he reinvented himself. I mean, he was a bodybuilder and he could have just stuck to that identity, but no, I'm going to become an actor. And then he could have stuck with that identity, but no, I'm going to go into politics. And continuing to reinvent yourself and learn and grow, that's what makes life fulfilling and interesting.
Yeah.
So
a little heavy topic, but just some reflection and some time for you to maybe think on these things.
Yeah. So, I mean, if there is an identity that you're holding on to that maybe isn't serving you as much anymore, I challenge you to
start anew.
Yeah, start anew. Think about it, and
let us know.
All right, guys. Until next week.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
We are all